Well, this is live from my office. I guess that part you knew. And, when you've got a friend, like so many of you, one of my best friends in life is a scientist. And not just a scientist, but a genius. He's also a tremendous entrepreneur. He's promised to include me in the will. He says I get everything nobody else wants. And of course, that's assuming he dies before me. It's the great Paul Douglas, one of the great weather minds in America and around the globe. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Steve Cochran. My wife calls me an idiot savant
Oh,
without the savant.
oh, that's sweet. That
Isn't
really
that
is sweet.
nice?
That's very sweet. All right, so we're in the midst of the holidays here, and so give me a little family tradition. When you were a kid, real tree, fake tree.
Real tree. And we had a ping pong table that my dad would set up a little HO scale railroad set.
Sweet.
And and I was even in my 30s. And is that weird to be playing
No,
with it in your
no,
30s?
it's great. It's great.
But
It's very cool.
and we would, being mostly German, we would open one gift on Christmas Eve, and then the rest of the gifts, well, there was only one other gift usually on Christmas morning, but we would open a
And that
gift,
would be a sausage.
a lot of sausage,
Yeah,
Lebkuchen,
yeah,
weird,
yeah.
weird German stuff. And we would also on Christmas Eve go out and see pretty lights, in the
It's
neighborhood.
nice. It's a nice thing.
So yeah, it was okay. How about you?
We had the real tree, and we would go out. There'd be one axe. The axe survived my entire youth, and my father would bitch the entire time as we were walking out to get the tree. I think partly because my mother said that we had to go with him, and we went out. He would be hacking away at the tree, and even as a strapping teenager, I go, Dad, let me. I got it. Damn it, back up. And he'd hack the tree down, and then he'd drag it to the car, and it was really a sweet bonding moment. But yeah, we had the real tree. I don't remember ever opening anything the night before, but the morning of, and I can tell you right now because this conversation comes up sometimes, especially guys our age. Best toy you ever had as a kid? Mine, Stratomatic baseball. Do you remember that? I learned
No.
I learned math. I was a math whiz, and it's surprising you haven't hired me at any of your companies. But the math I learned was largely from Stratomatic Baseball, which the kids, you'll love this. This is pre-internet kids, but this was cards, not baseball cards, but statistical cards on every player in the major leagues for a given year,
Wow.
and one set of dice. And you'd roll the dice, and it would correspond to, the player or the pitcher and the card, and you would play a 9 inning game would take 6 months. But it was great fun. It was great fun, and I loved it. And Stratomatic baseball. You had your slot racers, and you had your lawn darts that could kill a neighbor.
Yeah, I
You had
remember the
that
lawn
stuff.
darts and getting hit a few times on the head by the lawn darts, which
What was your
explained.
favorite toy though as a kid?
I had my spirograph, and again, I was
Oh,
in my
Artie.
late 20s, and but it it took me longer just to kind of get up to speed. But
Now I remember, and this goes to the scientist in you, but I remember, and you were a little embarrassed by this, and I never thought you should be, but I remember you had a game called My First Manifesto, and it taught you, and it was a cabin you could build in the woods, and it taught you how to write your technology manifesto. You remember that, don't you?
is that my Ted Bundy years? What do you
Well, it was Ted, but it wasn't Bundy. It was more of a Kaczynski feel.
Kaczynski?
Yeah.
That's what happens if you were to, nah, never
Yeah,
mind.
never mind. Never mind. All
Ted
right. So,
Kaczynski.
how many total years doing TV weather?
Too many. 40?
40 years
About 40 years.
in
And
Minneapolis and Chicago.
yeah, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, outside New York for a national cable network. Minneapolis, two different stations, and Chicago for three glorious years. And in retrospect, I got lucky though that my stint on TV was late 70s to 2008, because today In this world, if you're not showing up here,
Yeah,
pretty much invisible.
you're not needed.
People, well, 60, 70 somethings, 80-year-olds are still watching television news, but I feel bad for the kids starting out right now. And I just say, hey, have a plan B, have a plan C. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to find other ways to make a living. The days of,
Were there minute by minute Nielsen's back then? By the time you got out, because the minute by
oh
minutes
yeah,
now.
oh
Okay,
yeah,
so you could see, and you're modest, you won't admit this, but I know that it's true. And your contemporary Tom Skilling, who retired a couple of years ago here, same sort of thing. The two things that would pop in a local newscast, and you would see this in the minute by minute. Minute by minute, it looks like a Richter scale for an
like an
earthquake.
EKG.
Yeah, or an EKG, that's better. And it would pop for sports,
Yeah,
probably top story, top of the news, and it would pop for sports, and it would pop for the weather. And it would go straight up and it would come right back down when it was over. And obviously in Minnesota, as I've said many times, that's winter for Olympians. That's Olympic level winter. Um,
it is gold
and
medal stuff.
so we've already had a cold snap here. And when I say already, it's kind of ridiculous because we are into November. But after a crazy hot summer,
Yeah,
that saw surprisingly no severe weather, normally in Chicago in the summertime, you'll get 3 or 4 days where you're going in the basement, because there's a bad storm coming through. None of that this time around. But yet it appears we're teed up for an ice cold winter. And I know that you don't actually forecast out of the Farmer's Almanac, but do you have any
which
sense of
is
that?
going away. It's
It
going
is?
away. You saw that.
No.
Yeah, the Farmer's Almanac. This is the last
Is
winter.
this another Trump deal with Argentina? Is it going to be the Argentinian Farmer's Almanac?
I don't know. I think reading between the lines, it sounded like a financial decision. I'm
Ah,
just not sure in this day and age. I mean, how many magazines, how many booklets, how many pamphlets do you read?
yeah.
Again, we have no attention span. If you
No.
could condense the Farmer's Almanac into like a five
And
second post,
yeah.
that might work.
Well, you're the one that sat at the Marriott on Michigan Avenue in Chicago having breakfast with me years ago, holding up your giant cell phone, which at the time we thought was tiny and cool. And you said, everything's going to this. Everything's going to the phone. It's all going to be on the phone. And I looked at you like you were out of your freaking mind.
Yeah,
Turns out you were right.
no, I wish.
So everything you did on television on the weather, aside from the continuing education that you get every day, teed you up for these other companies that you've done, these weather research companies, these weather providing companies, things of that nature. But as your love for the weather waned, see what I did there? Has it waned at all?
I'm glad you worked waned
Mm-hmm.
into this
Mm-hmm.
podcast. I
Yeah,
really
a lot of guys don't have that talent.
yeah. It waned here last week, which is waned pretty hard.
I'd say you're better than that, but we both know.
No, I'm not better. No, I'm still fascinated by the weather. I'm still curious. I'm still learning stuff. You go to college, you get your 4-year degree. I went to Penn State. Let's not talk about the football season,
Sure.
but you go to learn how to learn and to be able to call yourself a meteorologist. Most meteorologists have a 4-year science degree, Bachelor
Mm-hmm.
of Science. But in reality, you learn on the job, making forecasts, running to the window every 15 minutes, saying, damn it, why? What happened? Where's the snow? Where's the rain? Where's the sun?
Mm-hmm.
It's a steep learning curve. You learn by making mistakes and public mistakes. And we know generally when we're wrong, but it's a constant evolution, a constant learning curve. But no, I still love the weather. And it was in the context of if you're a meteorologist, you live the weather, you make your forecast and people hold you to it. And it's almost like people expect perfection in an imperfect world. If you're off by a couple of inches or the timing is off by 6 hours, some people, especially on social media, really let you have it with both
Yeah, but
barrels.
the 90% of the time you nailed it, they weren't going, hey, good forecast, buddy.
No, that's
Hey, you
true.
got that one right.
They don't acknowledge when you got it right. Well, you're supposed to get it right.
But this is in baseball where 3 out of 10 put you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know, you get 7 out of 10 in a climate, or I should say, in a geographical situation like Minneapolis, St. Paul. 7 out of 10, I think, would be a pretty good number.
Yeah, we're batting about 88%,
See, that's almost nine.
90%. That's for a tomorrow forecast. It, of course, goes down by the time you get to day seven and beyond day five, day seven.
So the technology is good because here's where I'm going with this. The technology is good. The toys get better and better. You've always been on the cutting edge of that stuff. We've told the Spielberg story before. You wouldn't have 3D weather in your town without Paul Douglas. If you're watching on YouTube, that's him. And if you're listening, trust me, he's there. And the technology and the toys getting better and better. The way you can see things globally that you couldn't see before, better. Is it allowing us by way of climate change to understand and forecast what we're getting into? Because climate change to me, correct me if I'm wrong, climate change to me is trends. The weather is what's happening now. Climate is the trend. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. Um, the weather is CNN. Climate is the History Channel.
There you go.
We look out the window and we assume that what's happening out our window is happening everywhere. I don't know, somehow that's still in our caveman brains. Climate scientists look at the entire planet over not just hundreds of years, thousands, millions of years, ice core samples, a lot of data. And yeah, I mean, we have the data, we can connect the dots. We know that the weather, all weather now, is being flavored by a warmer, wetter, more volatile climate. So we've always had floods. Yes, we've always had droughts. We've always had hurricanes. But hurricanes are a good example. The ones that do form, we're not seeing more hurricanes, but the ones that form naturally are much more likely to intensify. And in many cases, intensify right before landfall. It's called rapid intensification because the water and 92% of all the extra warming from most of that from burning fossil fuels is going into the world's ocean. So, and that's not a model, that's sticking a thermometer in the water.
Right.
The water is warmer, and hurricanes get their fuel from warm water. The deeper and warmer the water, the more it can blow up and intensify. We saw that with Melissa. We saw that with Wilma. We saw that with, a long list of recent hurricanes that have impacted Florida. Right before landfall, they go from like a Cat 2 to a Cat 4 almost overnight. And one of the many dangers for people living in Hurricane Alley, well, I lived through a Category 1. It was no big deal. We're going to stay here. It's not a big deal. I don't want anybody looting my house. And I understand that sentiment. But increasingly, these Cat 1, Cat 2s, as they approach the coast, they get fat, hyperactive on this warm water, and they blow up into 3s, 4s, and 5s virtually overnight. And the danger is somebody goes to sleep, it's a Cat 1, no big deal, we've done that. They wake up the next morning, oh, it's a Cat 4, winds 150. Okay, and now everybody wants to evacuate millions of people at the same time.
Yeah, which can't happen.
That's a recipe for a catastrophe. And
So is it a parallel line with tornadoes that are not moisture dependent from the water in the oceans, but obviously the water in the clouds? But does climate change intensify tornadoes?
we're not seeing any evidence yet. What we are seeing some initial preliminary evidence is that traditional tornado alley is shifting south and east. In the last, especially the last 20 years or so, many of the biggest, most damaging and deadly tornadoes have not been Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, traditional tornado alley. It's been Chattanooga, Nashville, Huntsville, Memphis, Little Rock. It's shifting south and east along with the dry line, the edge, the boundary between tropical Gulf air and dry desert air, which is usually over Texas, but it's been shifting eastward in recent decades. And so that seems to be a trend that we're seeing more big tornadoes farther south and east, and even Illinois and Indiana. There's now a Dixie Alley. We're seeing more tornadoes, not every year, but if you
Hmm.
step back and look at the last 20 years, there certainly has been a spike, an increase over parts of the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. So, but you can't say no, we're seeing more F5, EF5 tornadoes. We don't see that in the data, but what we do seem to be witnessing is a gradual shift south and east.
Oh, the water is the great threat, right? The great damage, because if the sea levels rise and the flooding, coastal flooding happens, whether it's hurricane driven or not, that changes the world as we know it here and everywhere else, because it's not just a thing that happens here. So we have talked about this many times. You've written a couple of books about it. Um, I've given up, much the same way I've given up trying to convince people that Donald Trump is a lunatic who don't believe it. I've given up trying to convince people who don't believe in climate change that climate change is real. You'll be the last people on the boat, I suppose, and good luck to you. I hope you have one of those giant bins of macaroni and cheese and hip waders. But in the meantime, it is real. It is happening. And I think one of the messages that gets lost to the public is how can we affect change positively? Because you've got that weird access point you have to reach, where if we're going to retrain folks away from coal, away from gas, if we're going to retrain all of us to stop driving gas vehicles, we're talking about a generation. We're talking about stuff that probably you and I won't see in our lifetime come to its fruition. So, how do we speed that up in a time where the politics are what they are? Is it even possible?
I think it's still possible. And I still think the arc of technology and progress is going to carry it in spite of what's happening right now, which definitely is setting us back. I still think the overarching trend is clean technology, solar, wind. The cost of solar panels have dropped 98% since
There's
2003.
no other business that can say that.
I mean, who wouldn't want to take advantage of free energy? The wind, yeah, and no, the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, but now we have these big ass batteries. That's what they call them, by the way.
That's the company, big ass battery
Brand
company.
name, big ass
Yeah,
batteries.
yeah.
Energy storage and the cost, because thanks to Moore's law, the cost of energy storage is going down. So what's happening is that people are realizing, first of all, I've never met anybody of any political persuasion who doesn't want to save money.
Hmm.
And if you can show people how they can effectively save money by going into sustainable technology like EVs, I'm on my fifth EV. I don't do it because I genuflect in front of Al Gore. I do it because I'm saving money.
Hmm.
A little more upfront, but then over time, over the cost of ownership, you're paying maybe, I'm paying a quarter to a fifth per mile of what I was paying
Wow. Did not know
putting
that.
gas into my car. There's no maintenance, virtually no maintenance. Um, so there's an ROI. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, there's a return on investment that you get when you leverage clean energy and talk to people that have solar panels on their rooftops. I
But
mean,
what
why
you're
do we do
saying,
that?
and again, you just always do this, and this is a positive statement. Sounds like I'm accusing you of something. You always do this where you say something that clears up something that hasn't been said well before. And to me, it sounds like what you're saying is it's like teaching a kid to eat vegetables. If you can trick the kid into eating vegetables, the net benefit's going to be great. What you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say, is that if we sell the idea that you're going to save money, the net benefit is going to be we're not all going to die in the great flood.
Well,
Noah? Oh, sorry.
paging Dr. Noah. Uh,
Is that do I have that right? Is that
yeah, I think like anything, the inflection point, it's all about cost. If you can do something for less money and less hassle, your insurance comes down, less fuss. I mean, once you've charged a vehicle in your garage, And you don't have to be standing like a schlump at the gas station in January when it's 10 degrees. It changes your whole feeling about refueling a vehicle. And I realize not everybody has a garage. I get that. And we need much better solutions for people who don't have garages or who live in apartments. These are not insert, we sent men to the moon. I think we can figure this out over time, how it can be equitable, how everybody can participate.
Well, and there is no other planet. That this is another thing people need to
Actually, there
understand.
is. There
But
right
no,
behind.
there's thousands of other planets like Earth out there. I'm an absolute believer that we're not alone. It's insane to think that we are. But having said that, Elon Musk has not invented a big enough bus to get us all off the planet at the same time. And if we're flying people off at 10 or 12 a clip, a couple are going to get left behind. So you better take care of what we have here before it's too late. And there's a lot of screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. There's folks who are saying it's already too late. The ocean water temperatures have risen to a point we can't turn it back. That screaming doesn't help either. But we've got to move the ball. It's got to be more than talk. We've got to move the ball.
We need to elect people who have a respect for science. I'm a Christian. I have
As
faith
am I.
in something more than science, but the data is overwhelming. Our activities are, in fact, warming the atmosphere, warming the oceans, melting ice in Greenland, Antarctica. I mean, we can measure it. The shrinking glaciers, um, ski resort, I think it was Austria, just they totally brought everything down. They decommissioned everything, including the ski towers, because they can't open up in the winter. There's never sufficient snow. That didn't happen 30, 40, 50 years
Right.
ago. But, here's the thing. The atmosphere doesn't care about our opinions, it just doesn't care about our political talking points. The atmosphere responds to physics, and we've nearly doubled the concentration, doubled of CO2 and methane over the last 250 years. And there have been times previously, hundreds of millions of years ago, where these changes took place over many thousands of years. And as CO2 goes up, the temperature goes up. CO2 goes down, temperatures go down. Yes, we have ice ages. In fact, statistically, we should be going into an ice age right now. The last one was what, 18,000 years ago? But no, temperatures are trending upward. Doesn't mean that every spot on the planet is warmer than average today, but if you average things out, look at the entire globe, not just look out the window, yeah, it is warming up, and we should probably face this. I know a lot of young people that have climate anxiety, people who decide not to have kids because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them. I guess I don't think it's the apocalypse. I think it's going to be a slow drip, drip, drip. We're seeing more of these billion-dollar disasters. The wildfires out west are burning hotter,
Yep.
faster, lasting longer. Look what happened in LA last winter with the
Right.
Palisades fire in Altadena. And we're going to be seeing more of that. And we're going to be seeing more supersized hurricanes hitting the Gulf and Florida and the East Coast. And do we have the money? Is FEMA even a functioning entity right now? That, God forbid, a Category 4 hurricane strikes Charleston or Miami or Houston, and it's $100 billion disaster. Do we have the money to be able to rebuild, or are we going to have to abandon certain stretches of the Gulf because it's too expensive?
Yeah, it's not hyperbole. The idea that Miami would suddenly become an outpost, the Keys would be gone, all of those things that can happen in our lifetime.
Well, think
Um,
Venice, and
yeah,
Venice has made it work for them. But I mean, is Miami going to be Venice-like in 20, 30, 40 years, where you need gondolas to get around? I don't know. I don't pretend to know. But the sea levels are rising. The ice melt in Antarctica is happening much faster than even the experts thought it would.
what does this
So
mean for penguins?
I'm bullish on penguins.
Yeah, and I don't mean the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean literal penguins. I mean, are penguins aware? Are they blissfully, waddling around going, well, we mate for life? I mean, we got that going for us. I
I
mean,
would say
penguins aren't on the dating sites. They don't have to be. Find one, stick with it.
I hadn't thought about this, and for good reason. I really had not given this a lot of thought.
Like the bottom line is this:
Penguins.
the midterm elections are next year. They're less than a year away now. And I would love to look you in the eye and tell you, listener, or look you in the ear in some cases, and tell you that there is a rash of common sense candidates who are coming forward, who understand the danger we're talking about, and are willing to bet their political careers on it. There needs to be a purging of the elderly. There needs to be term limits. There needs to be a changing of the guard. Pick your cliche
And
for all of this to work.
campaign finance reform.
That's number
How
one.
would Citizens United, corporations are people. No,
No, no,
I'm
no.
sorry, that's utter bullshit. And
Yeah,
that needs to be reversed. And how we do that, I don't know. But the amount of money going into these campaigns now.
it's insane. You're talking about the estimate is 2 billion with a B, $2 billion for the next presidential election. It's insane. It's just
We have to
absolutely
get
insane.
we have to get young blood. We have younger people with new ideas,
Right,
energy, more diversity, people that come from different areas. That's not a weakness, that's a strength in the system.
right.
People who have different ideas, different upbringings, bring them to the table. I think more women in politics because women tend to have more common sense than men. I'm reminded of that daily,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's some truth to that. Yeah, we need
So do
fresh
I.
blood. We need people who don't vilify scientists.
It's one of the great tragedies that was amplified by COVID, and it's the dumbest thing I've seen, maybe in my lifetime. I don't get on a plane, go to the cockpit, and say, I saw a YouTube video. I'll take it from here, fellas. Um,
Yeah.
Experts, and the title of expert comes from repetition of a skill to the point where you earn the word expert along with your name. Whatever you do in life, if you're good at it,
Yes.
you only are good at it because you did it a
Yeah.
lot.
I
And
don't
for
do that to
people,
my plumber or my
no,
electrician or my
no,
roofer.
no.
I did. Yeah. But somehow, and that's the case too with climate, because people are, well, I look out the window, I monitor the weather. I know a thing or two about the weather. So therefore it makes me an expert on climate change. No, it does not. And I'm not an expert, I'm not a climate scientist. I'm a meteorologist who has seen the effect of a warming climate on the weather. The weather increasingly is playing out of tune. The growing season is longer. Winter over the northern states, we are increasingly seeing more rain, more ice, less snow, more variability. Um, Flooding. Again, you may not acknowledge climate change. You may not believe it's happening, but your insurance company does.
Yeah, because they
And
won't
that's
insure
why
you.
your premiums keep going up because more hail, more flooding, more extremes. And yes, everything costs more to fix if you have to reconstruct your home. But the data is there for people who take the time to look. It's easier just shouting a political talking point, though, that you hear on TV.
Well, and
But
somewhere in dinosaur heaven, there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex looking back, going, "What the fuck is wrong with you people? Were you not paying attention? Shit happens."
it makes people uncomfortable, okay? You're saying that our actions may be influencing the climate and therefore the weather. That's that's pretty heady stuff, kind of
Yeah, then
scary
people
stuff,
go,
right?
"I don't like that." They grab the remote and they want to know where Love Island is.
Well,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
we've distracted ourselves to death, and social media has not done us any favors. Our
no.
attention spans are less. Fewer people are doing a deep dive, actually looking at the data on anything, whether it's vaccines or climate or, pick the topic. We're we're amusing ourselves to death scrolling and thinking we know what's happening. Say what you will, at least back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, people watched the network news. There was a commonality when it came to, okay, this is reality. We weren't
Mhm.
arguing. There was still left and right, conservative, liberal, but we didn't disagree on facts. We had sort of one baseline,
Yep. Yep.
and now we can't even agree on the facts. You've got your set of facts, I got my facts. And but I think things are changing. I just think we have to be clubbed over the head a few times before we realize, oh yeah, maybe we should pay attention. Maybe we should make our homes, our communities more resilient, more storm-proof, more
Yeah, I
flood
mean,
resistant.
we don't need a climate 9/11, and it can happen. And some might argue, and depending on the town you live in, it already has. You know, what we should do the next time we do this, as we get into 26. And by the way, enjoy your last Christmas. As we get into 2026, the next time, there you go, survive 2025. It's a good hat.
I'm
The
just
next,
taking it one year at a time, one day at a time, like everybody else.
yeah, the new slogan is going to be "Don't be a dick in 2026." It kind of rhymes. But as we get into this going forward, if you can identify, if you see candidates in the news, people that are popping up, and there's not a lot of them, and you go, well, that's somebody that, the public ought to pay attention to and maybe get behind. You let me know and I'll do the same.
I will. And don't forget, back in the 90s, there was agreement that the climate was changing. This
Yeah.
was not a political football. The
Right.
Republicans and the Democrats agreed. I sat with John McCain and I said, are you sure the climate is changing? Could this just be a coincidence? And he looked at me like I had lost my mind. I was testing him. And he looked at me, he said, I see it in my home state of Arizona.
Right.
So, but it's become this political football. I think some of that has to do with keeping the money coming in. When in doubt, follow the money. Fossil fuels, fossil fuel donations. They want to keep lubricating their campaigns with fossil fuel money. And the amount of money is staggering. I think it's $7 million a minute that fossil fuels are subsidized worldwide. $7 million a minute. And I said, get rid of all subsidies.
Get
Get
rid of
rid of.
subsidies, get rid of Citizens United, and you can change things immediately. There is not a pile so big it can't be attacked. And for people that go, I don't know where to start. If you don't start with this, I don't know. I don't know. If this is not top three in your problems list, then don't talk about running for
Well,
office.
if you're not a little bit paranoid about what's going on, you're not paying attention. And a lot of people are paying attention and connecting the dots. And it's just sad as human beings, sometimes we need to be jolted out of our uh, stupors. You know, we live in our bubbles.
Yep.
And as long as our bubble is nice and comfortable and not much changes, okay, life is good. Your bubble is going to be impacted, if not directly by an extreme weather event, then indirectly through rising prices, whether it's food, whether it's your insurance.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's certainly one of the big stressors right now, and one of the reasons why we are seeing prices go up across the board, because this warmer climate is in fact flavoring everything right now. And I worry, what happened if, if the crops fail? Could we have another dust bowl? It sounds ridiculous. What happened back in the 30s? Could that be repeated? It's
But
not.
you know what? No, but it's not only is it not ridiculous, it should be ridiculous. But it's now factually not ridiculous. And therein is another starting point for people as well. Will you be home for the holidays, or where will you be?
I'm back in prison. I'm on the
Oh,
work
good.
release
Good, good,
program.
good,
And
good.
yeah, I'm here. We hang out in Minnesota most of the year. A few weeks we go down to the Florida Panhandle in February. February is a cruel month in Minnesota.
Yes, it is. I
It,
remember it
as
well.
you recall,
Yeah,
it wasn't much better in Chicago. Little better. Stuff was growing in Chicago that doesn't grow up here. But we've learned one of our coping skills is getting out of here and going down to the Florida Panhandle, which
absolutely necessary.
nice enough. It's like in the 60s, and it's like, okay. And it's quiet. Unlike South Florida, it's
Right.
quiet.
It's the great Paul Douglas, who, by the way, has written books on climate that I would encourage you to search on Amazon. Paul is the traditional spelling. And my best to your family. And I'll be in touch away from the podcast before the holidays.
It's always fun hanging out with you, Steve. Thank you for making me laugh. You do that on a consistent basis and making your listeners think. I hope
Well, that's the
that
thing. And I tap into the experts because I'm smart enough to do it. And then I take credit for what they said. So thank you for this. By the way, this is all produced by Ross Cochran, live from my office. And Anything But Politics, those are produced by Ross Cochran. Thank you, Ross, for that. And go to cochranshow.com for everything, including Paul's social security number if you're trying to hack him. Thank you, buddy. I'll be in touch.
All right, stay out of trouble. Yeah, right.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.